This is the Get Savvy Show, brought to you by the Reluctant Leader Academy. I'm your host, Mark Terrell, and on each episode I'm going to help you get savvy to allow you and your business to grow. We'll be focusing on the 3 elements that lead to business success: your mindset, your processes, and your skills. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Get Savvy Show from the Reluctant Leader Academy, and I'm your host, Mark Terrell, and today I'm joined by Colleen Wiltshire, who is going to be talking about or explaining what colour energies are. Now, some of you might be aware of what we're going to be talking about. Essentially, it's about the way we behave. It's the type of things, the way we approach things. It's really important to understand, especially if you're working with a team, because you know that you'll work with other people that do things different to you. And if we can understand why they do things differently and actually embrace those things, then we are going to have more harmony in the team. So that's why it's important, but I'm going to allow Colleen to tell us more about that in our discussions as we go. So without further ado, let's bring Colleen on to join us. Hello, Colleen.
Hi, Mark. Nice to see you.
And you too. Right, so I've sort of talked about what we're going to be talking about, or mentioned what we're going to be talking about with colour energies. But before we get stuck into that, do you want to just introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about what you do.
Yeah, I'm Colleen Wiltshire. I'm a HR consultant. I'm also a liberating leadership practitioner, pioneering practitioner, and insights practitioner. So basically, I work with senior management teams and business owners on team dynamics and leadership skills predominantly. And then the other half of my business is just supporting business with HR plans, policy, strategy, anything else that comes along, really. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Great stuff. So, so we know a bit about what Colleen does with regards to HR and developing people. I think essentially is what Colleen specialises in, and we share some tools that we use, and one of those things is, as mentioned, is liberating leadership, and we're going to mention that as well because it's important when we talk about colour energies where these fit in with regards to how we lead, and that's an essential part of understanding our behaviour styles, isn't it?
I think one of the first tools well, the first tool that I was introduced to was Insights, and then the second tool I was introduced to was you and Motivational Maps. If you remember me talking, I just had my I just had my Insights discovery profile done for the first time, I think, or maybe even the second time, because I brought it into a company that I was working with at the time. And when you start to look at self-awareness and how you turn up every day as a leader, you can then adjust and adapt your behavior to get a better relationship with the team that you work with. And so I basically brought it into the senior management team back in the day, and then I started to ask myself why I turn up this way, what's driving me, which then started me to be inquisitive about what was motivating me, why I was doing what I was doing, and that's when we met.
Which is a brilliant segue into the next segment, which is where we're going to actually discover what motivates Colleen. So let's just do that. Those of you who've seen the show before, is that this is the segment where we introduce the three top motivators for my guests. And for Colleen, number one is expert, which is about being a specialist and having specialist knowledge around a topic. Secondly, she likes to have freedom. She likes to make her own decisions, have control and autonomy about the way she does things. And thirdly, she likes to make a difference. So Colleen, where do you see, or how do you see these three motivations showing up in what you do?
They're definitely showing up in what I do. I think I was so impacted by Insights Discovery when I first learned about it that I just wanted to share it with other people. Because the lady who introduced it to me was Ali Stewart, the lady who created Liberating Leadership with Derek Biddle. I think she was so good and it was so impactful, and it changed the senior management team I was working with at the time, that I wanted to specialize in that. We then, it had such an impactful, powerful, impact on the business at the time, that I just wanted to learn more about it and deliver it to other people. And since I've been doing that, I'm really kind of driving it forward with others. I've seen sort of massive changes within a senior management team, because when they start to understand that people have a kind of default setting, but you really can alter that default setting. You can adjust your ways. It's very difficult, but you can adjust in order to adapt and connect to other people. And when you start doing that, the results are amazing. They really are amazing. So because I felt so passionate about it and still feel quite passionate about it, I think I wanted to ensure that I knew what I was doing, and therefore that expert motivator has really driven me to learn as much as I can. I've gone and created a network really within the Insights practitioner world, gone along to as many workshops online. We've had a crazy year, so there's been a lot of Zoom calling and a lot of taking the actual Insights course and putting it on online and going virtually. So I've delivered some stuff virtually as well, and just making sure that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm getting the fact that it's really powerful across. That's definitely the expert motivator.
Yeah, your specialism. Yeah. And what about the freedom and the making a difference drives them?
The freedom is wonderful because that's definitely up there, and I can't imagine that's going to change. The fact that my motivation is to add value, work with people that I like, that I can as well, and that I can influence, but to do it in my time as well, to be able to have balance in my own life. And I think this year has taught us an awful lot. I think I was already there anyway. I'd worked hard, I was tired, and I just wanted that freedom to select who I wanted to work with, and select when I wanted to work. And I love the fact that I have the freedom to work on a weekend if I want to work on a weekend. I have the freedom to work in an evening, and I can take my dogs walking in the day at some point if I want to. I really like that.
Yeah.
So that's probably, that's definitely that motivator is definitely being ticked. I think that I was pretty up there on motivation. I think there was it's going back a bit now when I did it, but I was highly motivated, highly motivated. And if I had it done today, I probably would be the same. I think I would have a high score.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that you get up in the morning and you go to work and you do what fires your rockets, what makes you happy. So you can add value to it as well.
Well, we were having a discussion before we came on air, when we eventually got on air, because we had a few technical difficulties. But you were talking about, you come across people that are, ended up like I've sort of experienced myself in a role that they just don't want, and that's business owner, or it could be in a big company, and when you feel that if you lose that drive or that motivation for what you do, then ultimately you lose the energy. It becomes a real drag. And like I say to my clients, when I ask them how easy is it to get out of bed to go to work in the morning, that's a key check-in with, are you actually getting the things that you want fulfilled in what you do? So that's really interesting. So we're going to be looking at your specialism, because you talked a lot about insights and how the colour energy is something that you're really passionate about. So that's interesting. One of the things that I come across, and somebody else, or many people actually have mentioned about, is when you're an expert, sometimes you never really feel you're an expert because you're always getting more information. Is that something that you sort of get wrapped up in now and again?
Absolutely. And a colleague of mine, honestly, a colleague of mine actually, excuse me, put my gloss on, gave me something that really, really helped me. And actually, as a colleague of ours, it was Kate Turner. She said to me that you have to be careful not to miss the sweet spot. Mm-hmm. So with expert, if you're going and going and going and going, and you're constantly kind of learning and learning and learning, and if you're not careful, you'll miss that sweet point and continue never feeling that you're good enough and never feeling that you've achieved enough or you've done enough. And you have, you have. Once your motivations are met, academically you're there, or vocationally you're there, then you are there and you are ready to go. So it's also about that self-confidence to live in the moment and achieve what you need to achieve that day, and what that you don't overstep. That's sweet spot. So that was really, really useful for me. Yeah,
you also, can get self-absorbed in it. That's the thing. Learning for learning's sake, as opposed to learning for what you need to know. And
absolutely. But also the color energies come into play as well. So the fact that I led at the time, and my color energies have changed now. But again, I think my color energies have changed because my motivations are being met, and I'm happy, and I'm doing what I need to do. So for my sunshine yellow energy is shot up. So shall I explain?
Right. So that's really interesting. We're going to go on to that in a second. Let's drop the motivational piece a bit. And so before we're going to share the model that you use, and it's well used. But before we delve into the sort of intricacy of it, just tell us a little bit around what this tells us about ourselves, and why is it, we talked about what motivates us. Why is this different, and why do we need to know this as well as motivations?
Well, it's because people show up differently
Mm-hmm.
every day. You just show up. The whole team has a different way, and sometimes it's difficult to understand why that other person or those other people within the office environment, the work environment, why they irk you or why you don't see things in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And relationship is so important in order to achieve success, obviously. But so what this tool does and what it did back in the day for me, and what it's just such a powerful tool that I use it almost all the time. Is it allows you to look at yourself, look at your preferences, look at how you turn up every day, and it allows you to explore your team and how they turn up every day. And then you can see your opposite types. You can see why you connect to certain people, why you don't connect to other people,
Mm-hmm.
why that person behaves and reacts in that way, that certain way. It's such a powerful tool, and it also allows people to have a conversation around colour, which is not derogatory and it's not inflammative. You can just discuss in a healthy way, opposite behaviour, and disputes can sometimes be just completely recovered quickly. Because of a new language that's taught within the business.
Yeah. I sort of describe this as the how we do things as opposed to the motivations being why we do things. And if you know both those things, it's going to give you a big advantage over most people that don't really understand what it is. Firstly, the how we do things, and also why we do things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's share the model then, Colleen, because and you can talk us through what it's telling us. So here are the 4 energies. I'll leave you to talk us through it.
Right. Okay. So what I normally do when I'm delivering the course is I just start all the courses with just say to people, think about the one person that you struggle to adapt and connect to very easy, and you in the business, obviously sometimes there isn't anybody, but it's helpful to imagine why you can't sort of click with gel with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of introduce them to these the way that we turn up every day. So the people who come into the office and are task focused, demanding, determined, fast paced, strong-willed, purposeful. They're the directing type. On the wheel, we actually call them directors, but it should really be directing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have to have a load of energy to be a director. But these are the tendencies that people show who lead with red, fiery energy. We call this red, fiery energy. So they're fast-paced and competitive. Okay. Then you have other people whose default setting tends to be what we call sunshine yellow energy, which is sociable, dynamic, demonstrative, enthusiastic, persuasive, jolly, loud sometimes. So sunshine yellow, and again, one of the terms I throw in there is jazz hands. So the people who kind of come into the office sort of waving their hat, and they're there. And then you've got the earth green. Earth green are the harmonious types. They're caring, encouraging, sharing, patient people in the office. They're relaxed. They're good at plodding on quite happily, doing repetitive work, but repetitive work that means something to folk, to people, to them, because they're very values based. So that's the green energy. And then the blue energy is people who lead with blue energy have that kind of precise, cautious, questioning, very deliberate, formal type So so often an attractive role for people who lead with the high blue energy is often sort of close scrutiny, work that needs spreadsheets, finance, that sort of thing, everything accurate and precise. So they're the 4 energies. However, people might lead with a dominant energy, but we're all made up of all 4 energies, if that makes sense. So the person who comes to work competitive, demanding, determined and purposeful also can adapt their style and come to work caring, encouraging, sharing, relaxed and people focused, but it's not their default setting, so they really have to adjust in order to do that way. And sometimes in the same way as the yellow and the blue energy, the yellow energy is sort of dynamic, demonstrative, enthusiastic, whatever. They can also be deliberate, precise, and questioning and formal, but again, it's not their default setting. So sometimes it just takes for someone like me to go into a team and say, look, this is how you tend to, it's based on Carl Jung, so old theory, that is very accurate, that a lot of these psychometrics are and personality tests are based on. So it's a tangible report, but sometimes it just takes someone like me to show them that report, and it's quite mind blowing when you get the report, because
the first time you do one of these things, you think, wow, how did they do that? And it's like a magical thing, and it's so insightful that you get. It's like a reflection of you. It's like looking in the mirror, isn't it? Like, oh yeah, that is me. So I think it's worth probably, you've touched on the task and the people focus. So I think as you look at the model, on the bottom are the 2 energies which are more people focused, and on the top are more task focused. And then on the right hand side are the extroverts, and on the left hand side is introverted. Yeah.
And this is where, Mark, you and I know this, and we've debated this and chatted this many times over the years. This is where it's frustrating when someone who's good at what they do gets promoted, because and then has a team of people to manage. Just because you're good at what you do for a living doesn't necessarily mean you understand relationships and how to get the best out of people. And when I stand with my clients and I just explain to them that to manage people, this is the sort of thing you need to consider. You have extroverts, introverts, you have people who think first, you have people who feel first, so we all turn up different ways, and you have to flex your style in order to adapt and connect to people and to get the best out of people. If you're constantly using one energy, that's not going to fit everyone's style. So it's such a powerful tool. When it lands on the team, it really is an important tool to use.
And the most adept, and both the adept at leading is understanding yourself firstly, knowing which energy you lead with, and also then realizing that you need to adapt to other people and also use these different energies at different times, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all, and if you think about it, we all do it.
Yeah.
We all do it naturally, but it's actually quite informative when you're told, when you're taught that it helps. So I give examples of at home with my children. My children are grown up now, but when they were small, I lead with high yellow energy and high green energy. So there's a lot of feeling, and I flip between being introverted and extroverted. But there were times when I had to put the feelings down and put my head, my thinking cap on, and push up that red energy, in order to keep it safe, or in order for them to do the right thing. You have to be quite different. We do it all the time, and it's very, very similar to the place. if you're working to a timeline and the task needs to be done, you can care as much as you like about the team, which is fantastic and great, but you also need to push up that red energy in order to ensure that you hit that deadline and and achieve your objectives. So the best leaders that I've come across are the leaders who are massively self-aware, know this stuff, and are able to flex this style and adapt and connect to each and every person. And of course now we've also got the added situation where people are working from home, so you're still not back in the office. Some people are back in the office, some people are still working remotely. So there's that complication as well. So relationships are so important.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one. You mentioned that, it's different. Whichever energy you lead with will be probably how you would have a reflection on how you've coped with the COVID situation, like working from home and missing working with other people and all those sort of things. Is that something you're starting to see, where people have sort of missed that interaction with people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've met with people who have absolutely loved every second of it. I've loved not the COVID situation, but the fact that they've literally had to work from home. They haven't had to commute. They haven't spent endless amounts of money on various things. They haven't been rush. They felt that they have been able to achieve what they needed to achieve at home and save some money and. Then there's been other people like myself who have really found it difficult. And if you look at the model, you can kind of see the people who are going to find it difficult. The people, predominantly, if you lead with a feeling, energy, and you're sociable and you're dynamic, or you're caring and you're people focused, then we've literally been locked down on our own, some of us. And so I think it does depend on what color energy you show. How you're able to deal with it. Whereas I think with people who are used to closing the door and just getting on with it, the cool blue energy, or the fiery red energy, I think people who lead with those energies have probably found it a lot easier.
That's interesting.
Because they can.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's also worth thinking about actually where we're in a stress situation, and when I'm in a stress situation, from being predominantly green, when I'm stressed, I know that I go flip to that sort of red energy, and it's almost like as a stress reaction. So is that something that we need to take into account?
And also, it's not an attractive place to be.
No.
To flip to the opposite energy means that you're highly stressed or under pressure or upset or whatever. So absolutely. You don't really want to see, and you'll know this yourself, you don't really want to see someone who leads with green energy flip to red energy. Just task focus.
What you're saying, Well, the thing is, with speaking from experience, green energy people like myself tend to soak things up, take it, and not say much, but when it comes to sort of letting go, then it is quite a dramatic change, and almost like a letting off of steam, which can be quite disconcerting to your team.
Absolutely, and the same with red task-based, fast, competitive, demanding, fiery red energy. When they start getting, kind of concerned about people and folk and start to feel, that's not it's not the best scenario either.
Right.
Likewise, that precise quote is cool blue energy
Yeah.
frantic, you know, it's just not a good place to be. I mean,
Yeah.
it is extreme for people to flip, to flip their most dominant energy. It is definitely extreme,
Yeah.
but it's like a palette on a, when the nuances of color is like a color palette. It doesn't have to be a complete flip. Sometimes you can see that someone has gone to a different color energy in a negative way because of things that have impacted. And a lot of the time, actually, Mark, it does relate to motivations. It does relate to whether people are getting their
Yeah.
motivations met,
Yeah.
whether they're engaged in what they're doing, whether they are have a direction, whether they be led. There's all these kind of issues, and I think a lot of the time you can almost always point back to leadership.
Yeah.
The issues that are happening within the business will almost always point it back to leadership or lack of, or not understanding that relationships and understanding how people turn up every day and understanding what makes people not just happy but tick.
Yeah.
How important it is. If all of those things are not being met, that's when all the problems start, and that's when it arrives at HR's door.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting, and we've talked about this before. Actually, typically we see those with red energy ending up in leadership positions, just because the way that they behave. It seems that they want to be in charge, but as you and I know, is that people end up there not because they want to be in charge, but actually it's just because they've had a way about them that people thought that they should be in charge, and obviously that causes a few problems.
Well, it's that fast pace, that determined competitive nature, isn't it? It's that just that just go get kind of attitude will often get you promoted, because you seem to kind of drive and care about the organisation, and often you do if you lead with red energy. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're fantastically fast, task-based, intelligent, strong-willed, purposeful, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best person to lead the rest of the team. So a lot of times, right from the beginning, since I started this, I can't tell you how many times I've said, watch that fiery red energy to directors. That fiery red energy is the one thing that it can be quite.
And it's a bit like what's got you here, it's not going to get you where you need to go. It's about just because successfully you've got to this position using that energy. When you get to a leadership position, it's actually realizing that the things that you need to use more of are the things that you probably have more. You need to sort of focus more on, or sort of consciously be aware of, as opposed to the things you naturally do.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the problems with fiery red energy is that they often think, people who lead with that energy in a big way often think that everyone else is as quick as them, is as fast and is capable of doing as much. And we're not. We're not all. We're all unique, and we're not all capable of the same thing. In the same way as someone who lives with green energy has so much, can have so much empathy and patience, and can be really powerful in a certain culture. Can be really powerful.
Yeah.
It's completely opposite. So, that it's all great to have these different ways that we turn up and these different skill sets, but it's so important to push the different energies up in order to be able to fit into that culture wherever you work in.
Absolutely.
And to adapt to the team that you're working with.
Being self-aware, especially in a leadership position, is essential, isn't it? Yeah. Sadly, Colleen, our time is coming to an end. So, before we sort of wrap up the program, do you want to tell those that are listening and catch this on replay where they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, my company is Selective Eye. You can look me up on my website, which is www.selectiveye.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and yeah, that's there's lots of information and things on there. So yeah, that's really in touch with me.
Fabulous. So thank you so much, Colleen, for joining me today. I think it's a fascinating topic. If you don't understand your behavioural style, then you're missing a trick, and it would help you so much with wherever you are on your journey, whether you're in leadership or not. It's going to help you communicate better with others. So thank you again, and hopefully we will catch up in real life, not so long in the future.
Absolutely.
Take care now.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Thank you, and so thank you to Colleen for sharing that about the colour energies. If you haven't come across that before, then get in touch with Colleen, and because she's an expert, as she's explained, she loves the stuff. She loves talking about the colour energies. And if there's anything that I can help you with regards to leadership, especially with your leading a team and how you do that, and if you're feeling a bit stuck in your role, you've got to that position of leadership where you wondered how you got there, then that's what the Reluctant Leader Academy is all about. You'll see my website is there for you to get in touch. And there are lots of free resources on there, and I encourage you to download the free 15 questions every business owner should be asking themselves, especially if they have the team. But give you an insight into the things that you should be concentrating on if you are leading your team effectively. So thank you for joining the Get Savvy show today, and until the next time, have a great day and take care.